Sponsored by Dennis J. Courtney, M.D., Director of the Courtney Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002 for Dennis J. Courtney, M.D.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AM Impact on Your Health. AM Impact on Your Health, where every day our goal is to have you learn at least one thing to help you live better and longer. AM Impact on Your Health is heard each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney, and I'm with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. AM Impact on Your Health, where each day you'll find current medical news, knowledgeable guests, fascinating health topics, and of course, where we do encourage you to call in to join in today. We're going to pick them up right where we left off on Friday. We are going to open it up to you today. I'm going to be, because I have found many different articles in the news. What's in the news will become the olds as of tomorrow. We'll be bringing it the newest of the new to you today. And of course, if you have any comments to be made on the articles I bring to you, or questions or comments on anything at all, you know the number to get in on this today. That's number is 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. By the way, last thing, right at the end of the show on Friday, I gave you those 7 blood tests that you need to have if in fact you are a thyroid patient. I know that it was pretty much packed into a short period of time. I'll give them to you again right after that first break, so don't worry about a thing. Just go get that pencil and paper, and we'll talk about what blood tests you can bring up to your doctor. And remember, I want to be a fly on the wall when you do. Now, up-and-coming calendar events. I have to tell you, this even surprises me. You know, each and every month, up to the Freedom of Choice in Cancer Therapy group, they have a guest each and every month, and we usually try to get that guest on our show to be able to, to have some time with he or she in anticipation of the actual visit to Butler, just south of Butler up there, the Days Inn, usually on the 3rd Thursday of the month. Well, I can report to you that, in fact, this particular month, it will be the 3rd Thursday of the month. That happens to be this coming Thursday. And I guess I can report to you we will have an interview with the featured speaker of the Freedom of Choice in Cancer Therapy group. The real surprise of the matter is, and I need to reveal this to you right now, I guess I am going to be the featured speaker up at the Freedom of Choice in Cancer Therapy group this Thursday. And, just talking to Sylvia last week, and she mentioned it's been a while since I've been up there, and it has. I'm thinking at least a couple of years since I've been back to see you. So, although I have a difficult time interviewing myself, I will just say the guest this coming Thursday, 3rd Thursday of the month, Days Inn, south of Butler, 7 o'clock, I will be the featured speaker up there this particular month, and you can call up to ask questions that you might like me to answer in anticipation of the group, and I promise to be up there, and we have a lot of ground to cover, so many things new that has come by me. Never had the opportunity to put them all together, but I think that is what I'll be doing. What's new, what has come to me new, and sort of list them all out for you on Thursday night up there at the Freedom of Choice in Cancer Therapy group. Hope to see many of you up there. I know many of you listeners do, in fact, venture on up there. Some are lucky enough to be right around the corner. Don't have to venture too far. You're always there. But, hey, those of you who maybe have to travel a distance, as I will also be up there too. This Thursday, Freedom of Choice in Cancer Therapy group, I'll be the featured speaker up there. Looking forward to it. The month is flipping right along, folks. We'll soon, and we are coming to those holidays coming up next week, not this week, but next, with the Thanksgiving break. And oh my goodness gracious, we'll be in the month of December. Looking up all the way into that month of December. We already have David Brownstein scheduled for the second day of the month. I've gone over many of his books. I haven't decided which one to have him speak about yet, but I'm looking at the one the title of which, here it is. I think maybe this one. He's written a book entitled Drugs That Don't Work, Natural Therapies That Do, and written an entire book on it. I think I'm going to ask David to talk about that particular book when he comes to us on the 2nd of December. Dr. Vava Boom herself is going to be back on the 7th. Very appropriate that she be here on Pearl Harbor Day, talking about the 10 ways to get over a hangover. Of course, this is in keeping in the holiday spirit after having had her already come to us with those tips. There weren't 10, by the way. There were 14, I think. 14 tips on how not to gain weight over the holidays. And we'll be inking more guests as the month rolls along. Just stay tuned, and I'll keep you apprised of who the guest list will consist of as that time moves on. Now, a couple things in the news got to tell you locally. This is in our Pittsburgh Trib Review this past weekend, talking about this hospital group called Excella. Excella must be a very interesting group because they bespeak, quite proud of it, by the way, that they have boosted their flu shot numbers. And of course, that caught my eye because flu shots, controversial as they are, usually are out there and not really having many takers anymore. Although that usually is just a personal decision. Most of you out there have already decided if you are or are not going to get the flu shot. We won't elaborate right now in all the pros and cons of it, except to say, Excella, ooh, you're something else. They have made it, it is now, for the first time, reading out the Trib Review of this past weekend, for the first time, Excella Health is mandating that all of its employees get a flu shot. Those that don't or can't, for medical reasons, well, get a load of this. They'll be required to wear a mask during direct and indirect patient care during the flu season. Now that is a stroke of genius on the part. And guess what? With that little bit of fear-mongering, if you have it, they have shot from 40% acceptance rate, 40% flu shots, which traditionally has been about the average around here. They're already up to 70% and counting. Don't know how well you feel about it if you were considering not getting a flu shot, but the fact that this thing about wearing the mask, huh? Now, who really should have the mask? Are you protecting your employee from the disease, or are you protecting the patient from getting the disease from the employee? Well, I guess it doesn't matter. With the mask up and only one person wearing it, it just can't pass in either direction, be that as it may. Finds out, by the way, Excella Health, they've got a couple locations. They've got one in Latrobe. They got one in Mount Pleasant. I see it all the time when I go to my office in Mount Pleasant. That's right at Frick Hospital. That's in Westmoreland, the old Westmoreland Hospital. Though the Westmoreland Hospital is still in existence, that's in Greensburg. They have a bunch of home care facilities, hospice, specialty service center, and a rehab center, and all of them had to fall. So at the rehab center, huh? During the flu season, when you're going there for physical therapy, you'll have to wear a mask at the rehab center. Oh boy. Just to keep you up to date on the other hospitals in the region and how they stand on this matter, UPMC has not made it mandatory. They're saying they're providing the flu shots for free for all of its employees. They have a little ring to it. The way I've read this article is that they'll even bring the flu shot to you. Now, that's a new wrinkle. You don't have to worry about going to get it. It will come to you if you request it. So that's a nice little thing that UPMC is doing. And then when it comes to West Penn Allegheny, well, they also offer free flu shots, but they don't mandate that all employees have to have them either. And they say, out of respect for each individual's choice, out of respect. Well, there's a new concept, out of respect. Way to go, Excella. Make it mandatory. All right. Other things in the news. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we take a short break? When we come back, get those pencils and paper ready. I'm going to give you, with a little more time and a little more explanation, the 7 thyroid blood tests if you're a thyroid patient. By the way, you're really sick. If you've been diagnosed as a thyroid patient, we'll get into that in a moment, you really do need all of these blood tests, and you're only getting 3. Be back in a moment with the list. See you when we return.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. Have you become confused about how best to manage your health? It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instructions, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you are looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Have you been to the doctor lately? Was fatigue top of your complaint list? Even if your doctor asks you what you eat, the recommended 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day is a dream in your busy schedule. What if you learned of a product 5 years in the formulation that delivers 5 servings of fruits and minerals in just 1 ounce? That's right, it's Fruit of the Spirit. The blessings of Fruit of the Spirit are now formulated into a delicious whole fruit puree product rich in antioxidants and minerals. Your health is more than just a test result. It's a balance of physical, spiritual, and emotional factors. You work regularly to strengthen your faith, but Fruit of the Spirit help cover your nutritional needs in a convenient and cost-effective ounce a day. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. Fruit of the Spirit, 5 servings of fruits and minerals with no added sugars. That's 1-800-442-3793. Good health, call them now. 442-3793.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AM Impact on Health. Heard here in KHB 620 each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. Here we are in a Monday morning version of the show, starting out in the new week in November. And, of course, we're going to open it up to you today. Anything on your mind is okay with me. Whether that's a question or a comment, either is certainly acceptable here. The number to do that, 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. Now, on Friday, and I admit rather abruptly, because I had built it at the beginning of the show, is, hey, get a pencil and paper ready to write down the 7 blood tests that every thyroid patient needs to know about themselves. Now, it's a little bit of a conundrum here, because so very few of you out there who actually do have thyroid disease actually have had it diagnosed. And the reason, of course, that number is so small, meaning the diagnosed figure, is you are subjected to the standard 3 blood tests. And if these blood tests, these 3, come back normal, then you are deemed to be normal when, in fact, you could be completely ill from thyroid disease. But unless those 3 blood tests indicate as such, you will never be declared a thyroid patient by your conventional medical doctor. It's unfortunately the way he or she has been taught. I can recall that very lesson in my own medical school background. Unless the T3, T4, and TSH are off, you don't get a diagnosis of thyroid disease, when in fact, as I now know, so many, 80% of the patients that I treat do not have abnormal blood work with respect to the T3, T4, and the TSH. Of course, that is the starting point. Every single doctor probably in your lifetime, if considering that thyroid disease was present, probably did order T4, T3, and TSH. So these 3 blood tests, you can write them down on your list. They're usually the first 3. And unfortunately, in many cases, not only are they the first, they are the only 3. let's take, for assumption purposes right now, that you have been diagnosed as already having thyroid problems. By the way, if you have, you're pretty sick, because that puts you in the 20% category of patients who have abnormal blood work, which is very abnormal. Nonetheless, the T3, T4, and TSH is what led to allowing your doctor to make that diagnosis. And of course, your thyroid gland makes a substance called thyroxine. It's not active, can't be biologically used. You then have to iodize the thyroxine that your thyroid gland makes to make something called T4. By the way, the fancy name for T4 is tetraiodothyroxine. Now, once the iodines are placed on the molecule, it's still not quite ready yet, because you see, the T4 is completely inactive biologically. No. You must cleave off one of the iodines and make something called T3, which stands for triiodothyroxine. And of course, once you've arrived at T3, you now do have the active thyroid hormone. Now, should mention that the real giveaway here is the TSH. And it's probably the one parameter that the doctor is looking at to ultimately decide, is this patient hypothyroid or not? Because the TSH, which is the third of these first three blood tests we're talking about, is a thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH, and its origin is from the pituitary gland. And there's a negative feedback mechanism going on, so that the pituitary gland is asked by the absence of an appropriate amount of T4 and T3 to send out the signal to make more T4 and T3 by allowing the gland to make more thyroxine under the influence of TSH. And so the most understandable parameter that the doctor is looking for is an elevated TSH, one that indicates that the pituitary gland is having to put out much more stimulation to the thyroid gland in order to get more thyroxine manufactured, to enable you, if you can, to iodize it, which is pretty tough to do here, especially on dietary means alone, to make tetraiodothyroxine, which is called the T4, and then ultimately to get to the point where there's T3. So these three lab tests are the starting point. I'm going to take a break here, go to our caller, but when we come back, I'll talk about the remaining 4 lab tests, the one that just don't seem to get ordered or don't get ordered very often at all. Why don't we swing to them right now? Come on in the store. Hello and welcome aboard. What's on your mind?
Good morning, Dr. Courtney.
Hi.
This is Teresa from Pittsburgh.
I know that voice. You don't have to mention who you are.
I've had a lot of benefit through you and Kim when I call the office and order certain things.
Oh, great.
I'm grateful to you for your marvelous way of handling guests.
Oh, goodness gracious. What a comment. Well, thank you, I guess.
Yeah. And, of course, the choice of guests that you bring us as well.
Mm-hmm.
And now, there was a guest among all these wonderful ones that stands out in my mind in a special way. And I wish to find out how to contact him or have you invite him again, is about a month ago was a young man, and he spoke about a number of interesting subjects, including like helping the veterans when they return.
Oh, I know.
Of what's going on over there.
I know who you're talking about. Of course, that was Beth Clay. His name was Daniel Brinkley.
Okay, Brinkley, I think I can spell. What's that first name?
Daniel, D-A-N-I-O-N. Daniel.
D-A-N-I-O-N.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you might consider bringing him again?
Well, actually, if you can remember that. And by the way, he was an interesting guy, was he not?
Well, I mean, to me, all your people are very, very highly valuable. But he was valuable in benefit for our USA.
That's right. He has this...
In a different way, and we really need that, in my opinion.
Well, of course, he is the head of a group called the Twilight Brigade.
Okay, I'm going to write that down. The
Okay.
Twilight Brigade.
The Twilight Brigade. And this is a group of volunteers that he has put together in order to act as a volunteer for hospice, for hospice representation for our veterans.
Okay.
In other words, our veterans who have terminal diseases and who are dying are doing so in what he described as a very cruel way.
Oh.
And because they have quite a bit of fear, as most people would understand. He's interesting because when he came on our show, he only got into this part of it at the very end, but it turns out he had his own near-death experiences where he was struck by lightning and was actually dead. He said for 28 minutes he had an out-of-body experience where he literally loomed over top of himself and all of those who were working on him, and then he came back. By the way, it happened one more time. So he's had a second near-death experience. Because of that, as fascinating as that is, he's decided as an ex-Marine to launch a program in the Twilight Brigade on, get a load of this, it was on Friday, 11/11/11. Now, I didn't see it written anywhere, but you can best believe that the Marine, Daniel, had a conference in Washington, D.C. somewhere where he launched this program of soliciting anyone who's interested. They would train you in becoming a hospice volunteer for veterans. Now, that is a laudable goal, and that's what we talked about when he was on our show. And I flipped, as you were asking the question, that was on October 17th.
October 17th.
So you can go to the archives and you can listen to Daniel once again. Number two, before he left us on that day, his story, his own personal story about the near-death experiences, which many of my listeners have already told me, hey, I know Daniel, I already have his books, because he has written books. And I asked him, would you please promise to come back and visit with us again? So I knew that the 11/11/11 was looming large in Daniel's own schedule, and so I purposely not interfered with him. I wanted him to get up to 11/11/11, which was on Friday, by the way. And so that's now done. It should be the appropriate time to contact him once again and bring him back, and I will do so.
Oh, thanks, a bunch of roses.
Okay, you got it.
Okay.
Okay.
Good wishes for your day.
Thank you. Same to you. Okay. Yes, Daniel Brinkley. What a guy. And, of course, what a fantastic and laudable and courageous thing to do about putting together this Twilight Brigade. But, of course, his own personal history sort of lends itself when you're having your own near-death experience 2 separate times. I say you qualified to be able to put together a brigade called the Twilight Brigade and help our veterans confront that final hurdle with a lot of support and help behind them. I'll bring Daniel back, I promise you. Hey, we got another knock on the door. Come on the store. Hello and welcome aboard. What is on your mind?
Yes, Doctor. I'm calling from Mount Pleasant. A couple things. I just heard you talking earlier that you have an office in Mount Pleasant. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. I go out there once a week to, I'm in the offices of Dr. Salim Elatrax. He's an institution out there. So if you're from Mount Pleasant, you have to know Dr. Salim, do you not?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. He's 85 years old and still practicing. How about that? What a guy. Anyway, yeah, I go out to his office and I have
What services do you do there, Doctor?
Oh, I work with all my chronic pain patients out there, which we have a number of them. And so one day a week on a Wednesday afternoon, I am in the Mount Pleasant area, and I travel through the Excella parking lot. Right. Now I'm going to be looking for people with masks on out there, because if you haven't been vaccinated for flu, you're going to have to wear one. Anyway, that's why I mentioned it, and I didn't realize that not many of you knew that I had a presence in the beautiful town of Mount Pleasant, which, by the way, you got a lovely town there, sir.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Second thing, I believe I heard this summer that Dr. Condrat is coming to the area again for a seminar and or for...
Here's what you need to do. Dr. Condrat had originally said right on this radio show that he anticipated coming back in the month of January, okay?
Okay.
So what I want you to do is I want you to contact his office to let him know on your behalf, or whoever it is that you're talking about might wanting to participate in another treatment seminar, to just give him a call and let him know that you have that interest. I'm previously finding a 800 phone number to be able to give you that.
Okay.
And I will come up with it, even if I need.
I think there was a talk that he was planning on coming to Seventh Springs. Is that correct?
You know what? I will tell you that and it's interesting. I have a conversation with him, and I bring it always to you. And he did say he'd like to go up to Seventh Springs to have that conference. Then when I talked to him again, he said, well, maybe not. I think what it is up in the air as to whether he's going to come, and all he needs is some interest. As little as 4 or 5 people will usually get one of these scheduled.
Okay.
So I can't find it in my calendar, but here I have my trusty digital organizer. I will come up with. Okay, here's the number to call. It is office. The number is 623-516-0010. 623-516-0010.
Okay.
Whoever answers, mention that you listened to me on the radio, that you had interest in a treatment seminar that had been contemplated for the month of January, and let them get some information from you. It could take place with as easy, and I'll put it out for everybody who's listening to me right now, or anybody else out there who thinks they may have an interest in becoming involved once again with a treatment seminar. It's a 3-day seminar that Dr. Conrad has. We've conducted them right here in the office. When he was last in Pittsburgh, that was in May, and then he goes all over the country, usually once or twice a month, doing these all over the place. But he's a Pittsburgher. He likes coming back to Pittsburgh. He already has a whole bunch of patients that he's treated already in this fashion, and when he comes to Pittsburgh, he gives them an opportunity to be reevaluated once again. Give that number a call. Did you get it written down?
Yes, I did.
Okay, give it a call.
Okay.
And tell him that you want him to come in January, and let's see how the list is mounting up. He hasn't contacted me back yet to solidify that. It is around the corner, so these can get put together pretty quickly, but please act now, okay?
Okay, very good. Thank you for your information, Doctor.
Absolutely.
Have a good day.
My pleasure. Okay. Yeah, put it out there for you all. If you have you think you know somebody, or yourself, who are having vision problems, especially with the big 3, which are macular degeneration, cataracts, and glaucoma. These 3, unfortunately, are not handled too well in terms of the entire ophthalmological profession. It's just a degenerative disease that continues to slide down a hillside, and the vision issue keeps deteriorating with time. Very scary for those who are afflicted with either of these 3 disorders. At least for the cataracts, there is an operation, but it is a aggressive thing where you're going to be having your own lens removed and having an artificial lens put in. And I know that the vision, the distant vision at least, improves greatly, but you lose a combination, the ability for you to change the shape of that lens by various maneuvers that you, as the individual who owns that lens, can do, but you lose the accommodation component once you change over to that artificial lens that gets implanted in place of the old lens, a cloudy lens, a lens with calcium deposits on it. So we talked about a lot of drops to help prevent that, to back it up. But the treatment seminar, give them a call out there at Dr. Conrad's office and see if we can get some interest generated. Okay. Let's move on here. By the way, 412-825-6262 is the number to do it if you want to have a mind to get it off your mind here with us today as we have opened it up to you. Now, I was talking about thyroid testing, and the big 3, the 3 tests, T3, T4, and TSH, usually these 3 had to reveal, and it has usually been the TSH all by flows himself that reveals this to the doctor to know that he should be treating thyroid disease. And as I say, 80% of the people I treat have completely normal numbers. You all know that the real way to determine and detect whether or not you have thyroid disease has nothing to do with blood tests. It has everything to do with your symptoms, of which there are many. We've documented them here many, many times, and your basal body temperature. These are the two surefire ways to identify a person with thyroid disease, not getting those 3 blood tests and based on them making the pronouncement that a person is either a healthy thyroid when in fact they do not have to have healthy thyroid, but nonetheless the blood work, because the way the doctor is trained, doesn't allow him to feel comfortable about proceeding any further. Now, if you have been diagnosed with thyroid disease, so if you're not treated by me, and you're on something called Synthroid, which is more than likely the medication you're on, then you have been diagnosed by the conventional medical community. And let's just say, as I mentioned once before this morning, that means you're really sick. That means for you to be detected in that 10 to 20% category, you've got to be way far askew of what normal blood work would entail, because your blood work was not normal. So in your case, there are 4 other tests. By the way, if you're treated by me, all 7 of these tests get done on everyone just as a routine screening. So we don't have to worry about going back and asking for them individually after the fact. We don't use any of these blood tests to make the determination as to whether you should be treated. So there are 7 tests. We already know about 3 of them, the T4, the T3, and the TSH. The next 3 are all antibodies. This is a rather unique, very common way that people become thyroid patients. If you're Western Pennsylvania, especially female, you usually arrive to require treatment just based on not having enough iodine in the diet. You are born and raised in a geological quirk. The geological quirk is that the way things shook out, and when the glaciers melted, we got no iodine in our soils at all. And so anything grown in our soils is absent, devoid of iodine, and this is usually the initiator, this is usually the originator of why it is so prevalent to find thyroid disease in this part of the country. Well, you may have had lack of iodine that brought you to the dance, so to speak, but there's another way you get here. And you get here whether or not you lived in Western Pennsylvania or not, by virtue of the fact that in some cases that your own immune system will attack your thyroid gland, and in so doing, they literally will render it incapable of making any thyroid hormone at all. Now, there's some names for this kind of disease. Some go under the heading of Hashimoto's disease. Another group of them go under the heading of Graves' disease. Nonetheless, these are disorders where the individual's immune system has attacked their own gland, initially, by the way, usually causing a spurt of hyperthyroidism, but after a while, the gland just goes quiet because it gets assaulted so immensely over certain time frames to the point where the gland can no longer work at all, but the antibodies keep coming. Now, there are 3 antibodies, so here come the next 3 tests. If you are diagnosed with thyroid disease, you better know what your status is with, here they come, number 4, perioxidase antibodies, number 5, anti-thyroid antibodies, and number 6, microsomal antibodies. These 3 categories of antibodies, no matter when your thyroid gland would have gone silent, and ultimately it does go silent, these 3 antibodies continue to be put out for a lifetime, and they are measurable today and should be detected because it indicates another branch of treatment that will need to be pursued along with giving you the thyroid hormone that you're going to require. Actually, there is no conventional therapy in order to deal with these antibodies. But there is a wonderful and brilliant alternative therapy. We need to thank Royal Lee, the founder of a company called Standard Process, because this company is the only company that manufactures something called a PMG. That stands for protomorphogen, and Standard Process makes a protomorphogen for any organ in the body, thyroid just being one. The one for the thyroid is called thyrotropin PMG. Now, why would this be an important component in someone's treatment for their thyroid disease if any one of these three or multiples of the three are involved? And that is that to allow your immune system to attack something other than your gland, you need a decoy. You need something brought into the body that the immune system would recognize as a thyroid gland, but actually not be your thyroid gland. I often use the analogy of if you had a very rich mansion with a lot of expensive objects inside of it, and you were trying to plan how to attack the house. The best way to do it is, because this particular mansion has Doberman Pinscher guard dogs that surround the outside of it. The best way to do this is providing a decoy, meaning leave a couple of pounds of ground meat at the front gate, and the dobies will be well out of your way. And with the sleight of hand and the diversion and the attention being directed to the front gate and the ground meat, the decoy, you can easily jump over the fence and take the plasma TV without any problem. That's what a protomorphogen does. It so happens that the thyroid protomorphogen would be necessary if any or multiples of those antibodies, once again, perioxidase, antithyroid, and microsomal antibodies, would have to be elevated. You don't know if they're elevated unless you get the lab test. And here's where, unfortunately, I'd like to be a fly on the wall, because your doctor more than likely has not ordered these tests. These are very necessary tests, so please request them. Perioxidase, antithyroid, and microsomal. And I would like to be a fly on the wall when you do so. Now, we got one more test. Let's do this. Take a short break. When we come back, you may want to interrupt in the meantime. 412-825-6262. Finally, one more test will wrap up the thyroid list of 7. It's called Reverse T3. We'll get into that in a moment. Be right back.
Want to help your family eat healthier? Instead of learning to disguise tofu in wondrous ways, how about some real nutritional power? If your family has the typical American palate for fries, pizza, and burgers, giving your family the blessing of good nutrition is a struggle. Fruit of the Spirit is the answer for your family's nutritional needs. Fruit of the Spirit is an all-natural, whole fruit puree made from fresh fruits native to the Holy Land with alkalizing minerals. Fruit of the Spirit was 5 years in the formulation, the work of a team of top nutritional experts with independent science to confirm its antioxidant power. 1 ounce a day provides the equivalent of 5 servings of fruits and minerals. Fruit of the Spirit is convenient, affordable, and delicious. Even your picky family will sing the praises of Fruit of the Spirit. Give your loved ones the blessing of good nutrition. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. That's 1-800-442-3793. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. You become confused about how best to manage your health. It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instructions, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you were looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back once again to AM Impact on Your Health. Heard on the Monday morning version of our show. We're opening it up to you today. You can come on in here at any moment. Get it off your chest. Get it off your mind. Anything on your mind is okay with me. 412-825-6262 is the number to do that. Once again, that's 412-825-6262. We're talking about thyroid testing, and I wanted you to have a complete list of the thyroid tests. We're still missing one, but we do have a knock on the door. Why don't we let him in the store? Hello and welcome aboard. What's on your mind?
Good program this morning, Dr. Courtney.
Hey, I'm glad you enjoy it.
I just wanted to make sure I got Dr. Condrat's number correct, and wish you could give it again before the end of the show.
Going to do it right now, as a matter of fact. I hope you don't wreck. Are you driving a car?
Well, yes, I am, but I can write it down.
Okay. Be careful now when you write this down. Here's the number, 623-516-0010.
Got it. Thank you.
Got it. Very good. Glad to pass it on. Be careful. All right. Dr. Condrat request maybe to come and visit us in January. The number's mounting. Give him a call out there in Arizona. That's where that number takes you to. It's to his offices, and let him know that on our show you requested that he return, and we'll be happy to facilitate that. And we can do it in my office if we need to. Another knock on the door comes in. Why don't you identify yourself? What's on your mind? Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Hey, is that Doc?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a question for you. Sciatic nerve on my left side. I'm a driver. Drive a lot of buses around, and I think I might have whipped it maybe in the bed. So it's very, very painful. Never had this before, so I'm calling you to see what can I do.
Well, when you use that word sciatic, by the way, there is a descriptor term called sciatica where patients can have a pain from the middle of the buttocks right on down the leg. Is that you? Does that sound like you right now?
That's me, Doc.
Okay, now, just one question would be, have you had any recent trauma? Recent.
No.
Okay. So you're a truck driver. All you've been doing is driving a truck. And then how long ago did you literally wake up one morning and have this as a problem, or what was the kickoff? How did this all start?
I think after, like I said, my girl had a good time that night. We went home, and I was, in the bed, and that's when it happened.
Okay, so let's just say, although I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty details, nothing violent happened in that bed, correct? In other words, you shouldn't have any major trauma like a fall or a car wreck or anything like that. You were in bed, for goodness sake, right?
Yeah, just whipping it a little bit. That's all. I think I might have threw it out.
Well, the word throwing out it certainly has value. Look, the term sciatica is a term that really becomes a common term because pain that moves down from the buttock into the leg more than often has to do with the distribution of the sciatic nerve, but nothing to do at all with the sciatic nerve. Nothing.
Nothing to do with what?
The sciatic nerve. Big old nerve, the sciatic nerve, that actually does follow through the pathway of buttock to thigh to leg, all the way, working its way all the way down to the lower leg. Now look, most of these injuries, most of these problems develop from a muscular overuse, and I would say that's the first place to start. It needs to be diagnosed whether or not this is pain of muscular origin or not. The likelihood, because you had no real trauma, you just went to bed.
Well, let me ask you this right here. Can it be an overuse of vitamins and minerals?
Not that would precipitate a full-blown case of sciatica, once again being used to describe pain that moves down to the buttock into the leg. No, but it could be. I can tell you this. I've had people develop sciatica from walking down the street and stepping off a curb incorrectly, like they didn't anticipate the curb. And so on the one hand, you'd say, well, geez, that's not much of a violent insult to the muscular system at all, but because it was unanticipated it wasn't planned for, because it was just a step down that you didn't properly put the foot down onto the lower amount of pavement. That was all it took to cause a small amount of muscle fiber to be torn. So I've also had cases where people who had just sneezed, okay, sneezed, pretty violent sneeze, but nonetheless they just sneezed, develop a chronic pain problem, not necessarily of the lower extremities, but certainly other areas of the body. So it doesn't take major trauma to cause major symptoms. I would ask you to have that evaluated. Certainly, I feel comfortable doing it to determine whether this is pain of muscular origin or not. And from what you described, it's hard to think and hard to believe that it could be anything other than muscular. You didn't have a major nerve trauma while sleeping. You didn't fracture a bone. You didn't dislocate a joint. You just went to sleep, maybe in a wrong way. You used the term whip it, meaning maybe the way you moved the extremity during sleep that particular night. So this is all in favor of pain of muscular origin. Please come on in to see us or some other practitioner that is very averse in diagnosing muscular problems. If you go to your standard doctor, he's going to order a CT or an MRI, and it's going to come back normal, very expensive, by the way, exposing you to the X-rays, very potentially harmful when it's not needed at all. So,
what makes this, Doc? How long is this going to take for it to go away?
Well, you can do a lot to help make that rapidly go away by what you do after it's properly diagnosed. So I hesitate to say anything more right now. We're talking this over the airways, or it's like over a telephone, and I'm just telling you that it seems like this is muscular. It needs to have my hand on it, or some trained individual's hand on it, to make certain that it's muscular, and once it is, then it can easily explain to you what to do to hasten this. As a truck driver, it's interfering with your gainful employment, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure it is. So we need to do things to get this rapidly to turn around. Come on in to see me or some other trained individual to make that assessment. Fair enough?
All right, Doc.
Okay.
All right.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Here we are coming down that home stretch once again, ladies and gentlemen. We're just about from the final corner of the final lap. We do have another knock on the door. Come on in the store. Hello and welcome aboard. What is on your mind?
Good morning, Dr. Courtney.
Yes.
To make this real quick, what is the reason that all of a sudden, and you probably explained this before and I missed it, all of a sudden, we used to get vitamin D, and then all of a sudden it became D3. And I wondered what the 3 stands for.
Yeah. Well, and I believe even when it wasn't being stated that you were to get D3, the people who made this stuff should have known. So it always should have been D3, even though I can understand why there may have been preparations when it was not, when it didn't even state it. But as we now know, this vitamin D starts out as something called calciferol, and that's what's in the skin, at the level of the skin. And when sunlight hits it, and that's D1, that's vitamin D1, okay?
Okay.
Then when the sun hits it, it's able to have it convert to vitamin D2, which is dihydrocalciferol, okay?
Okay.
And then finally, with a couple more steps, you can get to the active form of the vitamin, which is vitamin D3, which is 1,25-dihydroxycholecalciferol, and you don't have to repeat that, okay?
Okay.
Okay. So vitamin D3 is the active hormone, okay? Now, you don't measure that whenever you're trying to assess someone's hormone status. So you never ask for vitamin D3 or 125-dihydroxycholecalciferol, because that only has a half-life measured in minutes.
Okay.
So there's not a very good blood test to do that. But 125-OHD3, which is not dihydroxy, it's plain hydroxycalciferol, is something that has a long half-life. And so that's the one you measure to find out what your status is with respect to vitamin D, 25-OHD3.
Okay.
You have to have a value of 34 nanograms per milliliter or higher in order to be in the normal range, but normal is one thing, optimal is another, and first of all, very few people are even in the normal range.
Okay.
But once we find out where a person is, we want to take them to optimal levels of vitamin D3, which is the 80 to 90 range. Okay, so it's pretty far up there. It's going to require a minimum of 10,000 units, 10,000 units for almost 6 months, well up to a year, to take you from where you'll be initially to where you'll be ultimately, and then we have to come up with a dose, usually around 5,000 a day, to keep you there.
Okay, well, I noticed that even the GNC brand has D3 on the bottle.
Sure, they all should, they all do, and that's what you should be taking. But the thing that you measure is the 25-OH-D3, not the active form. The 1,25-dihydroxycholecalciferol is not the measurable one and wouldn't be the one to even take. You take the 25-OH, okay?
Okay, and thank you.
Okay, there you go. Good question. And, by the way, you live in Pennsylvania. They say above the 35th parallel, there's no way that you can have a normal vitamin D level based on a non-supplementation. Because of your exposure to the sun between the months of September to May, we don't get direct sunlight above the 35th parallel. We get indirect sunlight because the Earth is tilted. And when the sunlight hits our atmosphere, it literally gets bent down to strike the surface of the Earth. There's no direct sunlight, and it requires direct. And so you're going to have to supplement if you're a Western Pennsylvania person, not just them, but anyone the further north you get, the more supplementation can have to be. Anything above the 35th parallel, which, as I say, is a line drawn through Atlanta, Georgia, and you're pretty far north of Atlanta, Georgia, folks. Okay, that final blood test to round out your list of 7 happened to do with the newest player on the block. Only been available now for maybe 6 years, 8 years, something like that. And it is called reverse T3. So you have regular old T3, but then you have its mirror image, and it's called reverse T3. And what happens is that although reverse T3 can occupy the receptor site for T3, it's not biologically active. In fact, it acts as an impediment to biological reaction. And in that way, you can look at reverse T3 as though it's a set of brakes. And as long as it's occupying the receptor site that regular T3 should be occupying, that means that regular T3 can't occupy that site, therefore no biological activity is able to be engendered by the connection between the reverse T3 and the receptor site. So there's an ideal ratio, folks. The ideal ratio is 11 to 1. That you must have 11 times as much T3 as you have reverse T3 in order to ensure that there's enough receptor sites open and occupied by the right kind of T3 in order to get the biological activity to occur. So this new player on the block is an important lab test to know. Why? Because if it turns out that the reverse T3 is elevated, what it means is the dosing that you're going to be required to take of the thyroid hormone that you're going to be taking is going to be increased tremendously. That certainly you don't give one dose, let's say, I know that I use Synthroid, I don't usually use that myself at all, but you need a whole bunch of Synthroid or Armor or Cytomel or whatever it is in order to overcome this 11 to 1 ratio that you have to achieve in order to make the T3 cling to the proper receptor site and bump off the reverse T3 that occupies that site. So now there you have it. They are the 7 tests. We can put it to bed now. You do have your list, and I do want to be the fly on the wall as you bring up this list to your own doctor after he explains to you why it was that he got the 3 tests. And then I'd like to hear why he didn't get the other 4. I say especially in those of you out there who have been diagnosed as thyroid disease patients. And so if you are on thyroid hormone, you have been diagnosed as such based on T3, T4, and TSH blood testing, but did you ever get the antibody test, and did you ever get the reverse T3? Well, this, unfortunately, I believe probably has not happened. You need to make sure it does happen, or you need to come on here so that we, in our standard blood work workups, we'll be able to get those for you and get you on the right course of the therapeutic reversal of your thyroid disease, meaning the adequate dose required to get that thyroid disease up and running so well that A, all of the symptoms that you had on the way in the door and that low basal body temperature that you had all gets turned around so that the symptoms are gone and the basal body temperature returns to normal. By the way, that basal body temperature is in a range, and it's not 98.6. That range starts at 97.8 and goes to 98.2. So if you have a body temperature in that range upon emerging from sleep in the morning without moving out of bed yet, putting your feet on the floor, that is considered basal state temperature, and if it's in that range, you are fine. Likelihood, however, is that you're not just beneath it, you're far beneath the 97.8, and for that reason, you're going to need to be treated. All right, folks, I got bongers in the background. I've enjoyed my time with you today. Be back with you on Wednesday. Until then, this is Dr. Dennis Courtney in anticipation of my presentation up at the Freedom of Choice and Cancer Therapy Group on Thursday. Say so long for AM Impact on Your Health.
AM Impact on Your Health is sponsored by Dennis J. Courtney, M.D., Director of the Courtney Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002 for Dennis J. Courtney, M.D.
KHB reminds you, children are naturally curious, so follow their lead. When you talk to your child, you build vocabulary. Learning starts before school does. For more tips, go to bornlearning.org.
What would you rather pay, $124 or $39.95 for the best, most complete daily supplement available? Are you like most people who are confused about making correct choices when it comes to which vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acid, or calcium to take? Internet Nutritionals has the answer for you with our premier product called Complete Food Supreme. Complete Food Supreme is a blend of just the right amount of vitamins, minerals, vegetables, fruit extracts, and the patented antioxidant Activin grapeseed extract, fish oil, and coral calcium, all put together in a 4-capsule convenient take-along packet. One packet of Complete Food Supreme gives you 6 servings of broccoli, spinach, lycopene, odorless garlic, cranberry, and mango fruit. So take the stress out of your life with